Good morning, hello everybody. We are at the ZOOparty Finland. Guten Morgen allihop. In Sverige, Germany, anywhere. I have no idea where all the audience is located, but we have in here, in the location, we have lots of people and we have lost almost everybody last night. It's not so crowded here as it was yesterday. What do you think? What happened?
Hangover?
Who has taken our audience? Some alien being. Yeah, but ZOOparty. Just some comments. We have the ZOO's children competition seems to be amazing success. There's dozens of entries. The demo competition will be really, really long. There is lots of demos. And of course today, otherwise we have all kind of amazing things happening. And there's the Finsids. Finsids 2. You can order it online, buy some music, buy some amazing Finnish music. There is something by you. Tell about your song.
It's about Bren McCuire taking the ship from Katakis and flying with it.
Amazing. So good morning. This is the first presentation of today. I'm Grendel of Byterapers. I have here some amazing 64 guy. Who are you?
Cadaver.
And what do you do?
I make games for living and for hobby.
So this guy is weird because he thinks he has taken his profession to his hobby as well, and we are all very lucky about that.
The other way around.
Yeah, other way around. Yeah. So that way, actually, you can still enjoy making games. So he is Cadaver. He is from Covert Bitops, game-making group. Lasse Öörni by given name, but of course nobody who uses your name. Given name, not your real name. It's hot in here. Okay, so we are going to talk about Commodore 64 game making. It's you have made you make games for other platforms as well. You started game making as hobby for PC, DOS, but then you got wise, older advisor.
I think. Like I started with experiments on like Commodore 64 long time ago, but I was quite young then, and the tools were like a bit rough, so they never got far. Then I actually moved into Amiga programming at the like start of 90s. Actually, I was still quite young, like in elementary school, but I still managed to learn like assembly coding from, like of course we had these great sources like Mikron and C-lehti. So, and of course like books like the Amiga hardware reference guide and those. And I actually managed to like make the first Metal Warrior game was made on Amiga in like 93, 94, but it was never published at that point. And then I jumped ship to PC coding.
Speak, we have a little. Yes, yeah, he knows.
And and I started making those like quite small games based on Iron Maiden song titles like.
Sorry, could you have the mic a bit higher up? Thanks.
Yeah, like the Trooper was a game on MS-DOS. It was a bit like Green Beret, but you were on horseback killing the soldiers, and then like Aces High was a air combat duel game, and then this Lada Ultimate Challenge was an overhead racing game where you try to race the dangerous roads of the future. Yeah, those were fun times, but they were like quite small games released as freeware back then. But I think then I like got on the internet when I started university. It was like 1997 or so, and then I got the idea that maybe I should try the Commodore 64 again, because by that time the original Commodore 64 I had as a kid was broken down, but there were emulators at that time, like C64S or CCS 64.
CCS.
Vice was not yet there, but then I like downloaded some cross assembler from the internet and started experimenting again.
On emulator?
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, there was a period when I didn't have a working 64, and actually like the first Metal Warrior games were made by testing on emulators only. I think like it was 2001 or something when I got a functioning Commodore 64 again.
That's quite surprising, making games without any actual hardware. That took lots of dedication.
What?
Lots of dedication.
Yeah, and I think maybe at that time it was like just trying to find some funny thing to do. Like I didn't know at that point that I would become so dedicated to Commodore 64, but like it was fun to tackle those like low-level issues again, like trying to optimize raster time and get the fastest possible scroll routing and fastest possible music routing and sprite multiplexing and those fun things that you couldn't really have or need on like PC. Of course, like Amiga was a bit more low level.
But you mentioned that you made the first Metal Warrior on Amiga.
Yes.
And then the actual first released Metal Warrior was on C64. After that, you have done Metal Warrior games for years and years, and the latest Metal Warrior Ultra.
Yeah, it reboots like the first 64 game, but the Amiga was the original. That's a bit interesting. Maybe I'm quite attached to that like story line and that world and those characters, so I keep returning to it.
Okay, and the Amiga version, it already had all these metal dudes, metal heroic storylines.
Yeah, it has a bit different characters and storyline, but the gameplay is quite similar. So it's like side-scrolling combination of action and adventure.
So for the audience, for the remote audience, we keep mentioning Metal Warrior, and of course it's your big thing. But for those who don't know what Metal Warrior is, can you summarize the idea?
Yeah, those are like side-scrolling action adventure games where you happen to play as a metal guitarist who likes to drink beer and play his guitar, and then he stumbles upon some like conspiracies, maybe it's some like military mind control technology or something like that, and he gets in danger and has to fight himself. Basically, he just wants to get back to playing metal and drinking beer, but there is this adventure first to survive.
And those who don't know, he's not Metal Warrior, but he's Metal Dude, and he plays metal and listens metal. So there's always the question that how much of yourself is in the games.
Yeah, I think it comes from from what I like and my experiences, but like I don't imagine myself as the hero.
But that's the thing that keeps the game series alive and moving forward, because it's about things you like. So hey, I can make yet another game about things I like.
Yes.
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 Beautiful. So you had these grand ideas about games already when you was a small one.
Yeah, I think I got attached to like those games that combine like adventuring and exploring a world and like fighting. And I think first really long game that I like to delve into was Fairy Tale on the Amiga, because it was a big world and lots to explore, and like people you could talk to and monsters or enemies you would fight. And I think that's an overhead game, and I make mostly side scrollers, but the idea is the same, that you kind of have this freedom to move in this world, but there is also this storyline that like keeps you interested in and gives you the goal in the game.
Absolutely. Fairy Tale brings the huge storyline and the adventures, and then on the other hand, as you mentioned earlier, Shadow of the Beast, it gives you the side-scrolling adventure.
Yeah, it's kind of the same idea, but in a more limited sense. And well, then like Turrican games were also what I liked, which are a bit more action-oriented, but still you have these quite huge levels you can lose yourself in.
Cool. So how did you start growing up the games then? You first was making the smaller ones, and then slowly larger and larger.
Actually that's fun, because this Amiga Metal Warrior game was it actually had everything like my later bigger Commodore 64 games had, but I implemented it all in a very haphazard and crappy way. The code was really horrible, but somehow it remained functional. So like there was basically a very large world and different tile sets the game would load to show those different locations and different songs and lots of different enemies. But then like I think I then started like practicing on PC in like making smaller projects, but in a more controlled manner, so that like I could learn this like software development skills bit by bit by doing.
Skills and better tools.
Yeah. I think like on Amiga the Sega assembler was already a godsend, because you could edit a huge source code file and then compile it and like test. And of course, like then on PC there were those C compilers and assembly compilers and like lots of hard drive space to store your programs in. You didn't have to store them all on floppies anymore.
Yeah. So on 64 originally you was working on emulators, and you said you had some lack of tools with Amiga and PC. You had better tools, better project management, slowly better skills, and then you got into making these very big Commodore 64 games. How did that work? Because the later Metal Warriors, they were really big. Your modern 64 games, they are huge. So how do you work on them?
Yeah, I think I always like to start like from the low level routines, because those are like, it's always fun to like make the scrolling and like showing sprites and multiplexing sprites and like getting those things error free and like as efficient as they can be first, and then you like start building up like some part of the game world for testing and get your own character moving in the world and using weapons, and then at some point you start adding enemies and like checking how they beat you up and how you beat them up, and I think that's actually very similar to what like Richard Garriott talked about when he made the early Ultima games, that he makes the world for the player to move in and he puts monsters in, and then the monsters beat the player up, so then he adds shops where you can buy weapons, and like it's not very far from that kind of quite organic, like you always do the next thing that you feel that the game would need until it's complete, and then of course in the like finalizing stage you have to test it a lot, especially like those my later games which have like branching plot lines and like different events in the story, so you have to then test all the combinations. That's not always very fun, but like if the game is published on physical cartridges, then
Yes.
it should be error free.
Yeah, no updates, not so easy to distribute updates even for the disk versions, maybe. Okay, published. You are getting, well, let's make a big jump to different topic. Publishing. You are now a published Commodore 64 game author. How does it feel?
I don't know, maybe not so special, because it's actually at some point there were like very limited boxed editions from Metal Warrior 4. I think it was Simon Quernhorst who was making them, and actually also from the original trilogy, like the 1, 2, and 3. Those were both published as limited box sets, but then I think the first published game which was like widely distributed was Hessian for Psytronic in 2016, and actually that was a funny game because I had made it open source. On the source code of the game was on GitHub all the time,
Okay.
and it was always like meant to be released as a free download when it was finished, but it was okay for Kents at Psytronic that we would nevertheless make a like physical paid version, even though the game was also a free download. It was interesting, but it was fine.
Yeah, and the guys at Psytronic, they knew about you, they found about you, they reached out to you, that can be published.
I don't remember which way it was. Did I reach out to Jason, or maybe I reached out to him? And maybe I think probably someone had maybe asked on Lemon 64 or something that would we get a physical version. And of course, like it's satisfying to get that physical box and like the instruction manual and the physical disc.
And the stickers and other stuff that's in the box too. So very nice physical releases. People who have, I know quite a few people who have bought them and are really happy to get it by mail. That yes, Hessen finally, Steel Ranger finally.
And like hear the real sounds of the disk drive when it loads the game. Yeah.
Absolutely. So how do you work with publishing with companies? How are you communicating with the publishers? Do they have, what kind of feedback they send? It's
mostly kind of very laid back and very not so organized. I think I have never like written my name in any contract, even though the games have been published. So like we communicate on email or Facebook or like that. Usually, like when the game is in the finalizing stages, then the publisher will be interested. So at least in my case, so like first there might be this kind of long period of development where I don't think that interests the publisher not so much because he's not funding like the development process in any way. But yeah, when the game is close to finalizing, then we like start discussing things like the box art and the manual content and what should be in the box, like those feelies or stickers. And like Psytronic has their in-house artist, this Trevor Smila Storev, and he's very good. So there has hasn't been much need like redo or negotiate about the art, because it always comes back as so good. And it was also the same with Protovision and their in-house artist, this Lobo. So at least like I'm not the best guy to talk about this like negotiation process, because there is so little to negotiate. And
but that's important to hear. That okay, it's actually so low-key thing to get game published on C64. It's not a hassle.
Yeah, of course. Like there will be delay from like the physical media needs to be ordered. So, and in some cases those delays might be quite long. For example, with MV Ultra, the disc version got delayed about a half year from the cartridge release, because of course the publishers might also have their hands full with other game releases, so they kind of have to work out this schedule that when is each game coming out.
Okay, well, who writes the manuals? Is it you? I like give out the text and like the initial layout, and then the publisher, like Jason from Psytronic, does it himself, and he like also does this art like for the joystick control diagrams and stuff with the input from me. And just as a comment for the local audience and the remote audience, you can send questions if you want. There will be probably questions, answers moment in the end. You can raise your hand at any moment and throw a question if you need to or if you want to. Okay, so.
Of course, I would like to say that, like, if you want to get rich with Commodore 64 games, like maybe then going with a publisher isn't the best idea, but they take like a huge part of the risk away from you. So I think it's kind of fair that then the royalties you get are not that much, but they are like enough, for example, to buy a used Ford car or other small old car. So it's like it's not nothing.
And it's still, I would say, a nice motivating factor that you get the game out.
Yeah.
That way. Okay, making games on Commodore 64. Actually making games today. How do you work today? Now you have assets there on the computer. We can show some of that later.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the actual modern day development. I have no idea about that, so that's all up to you.
Yeah. So the way I like to work is to like automate the building process of the game. So like I got my assembly language source code files. There might be like many megabytes of them even. So they get assembled and packaged with like commands in a make file. So I type make and it builds the game, and like that does like the data compression and like preparing the disk image or cartridge image. So I use this cross assembler called DASM, and I think like always when I mention it on forums, I get a little bit shit about it because it's there are some bugs, and like some more modern assembler like Kick assembler or something might be nicer, but I have gotten used to DASM, so I continue using it. And like for data compression using Exomizer or Bookrunk or ByteBoozer, very good tools, and you choose them according to what the game needs, like does the decompression routine need to be very small or very fast, or is it most important to pack the game in the smallest space possible. And well, yeah, that's about like the build process and the source code files. But then like I like to, I think even since I started with the first Metal Warrior game, I like to write my own like graphics editors. They very much resemble the editors in like the shoot 'em up construction kit. So that was something I liked as a kid. So I then copied the look and feel of the editors when I made my own. So like sprite editing and tile map editing and that stuff which the game needs, and also like in my games also like placing all the objects and enemies to the world, and that produces its own like binary data files, and they get packaged into the game so that it becomes functional. And then for music and sound effects, I think I started out like writing music just in source code, like writing my own play routines. And I think for Metal Warrior 2 I made this Shadow Tracker editor which runs on Commodore 64, and it's a nice traditional sound edit or music editor. And I think maybe someone has made a tune or two with it also, but then like in 2000, I think it was 2001 when I wrote the first Goat Tracker editor, and it became quite widely used, but I think there was a long time that I didn't actually use Goat Tracker for my own games, so I continued either working in source code, or then I made those more optimized editors like Ninja Tracker, and or I like nowadays I like to work so that I compose or my guest composer composes in Goat Tracker, but the music is then compiled to a more efficient and limited play routine,
Okay.
and that is bundled with the game.
So you kind of do everything yourself.
Do everything myself,
Yeah.
and try to do as optimized as possible. Well, I haven't written my own like assembler yet, or emulator.
Yet. I did like that bit about using shoot 'em up construction kit. That's a beautiful bit that it still haunts you until this day. That did you do a lot with it originally?
I think when I was a kid, I like tried making whatever this game making program allowed you to do, like kind of commando clones. But yeah, you learned about like animating sprite sequences, and so it was beneficial in that sense, and like how the game world is organized from tiles.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So, and I never, because it's quite a natural and optimal way to store graphics data, then I knew that there was no need to move away from that.
Yeah, and shoot 'em up construction kits, graphics editors, you are modeling your own editors after tools because A, they were perfect already back then, or B, you got so used to it.
Yeah, I think that's the familiarity thing.
Yeah.
And because I make those editors for myself, so they are kind of filled with key commands you have to remember, but they kind of work for me. And if I had some other artists working for me, I think then we would have a discussion. And I have talked with Chester, from Knights of Bytes, and for him and for his artist, it was important that they did kind of more modern and friendly tools.
You have the tools over there, I think. Is there something you would like to show us from your process?
I could show, for example, what the world in the MV Ultra game looks like in the editor, and then I could also show a little bit of a secret project.
Secret project. Be prepared.
Which I hope it becomes a reality, and I think you might recognize the folder name, what it is, but maybe I'll first show this MV Ultra editor. So I have, I think when I met Hessian, I kind of started this new era of tools. So now I have the whole game world in a one big map. It's not divided into levels at that point, but I need kind of define the levels in the editor. So what part of the world goes into what level. So I load the whole world of this MV Ultra game.
Can you show Taino? Can you show? Yeah, thanks.
Yes, so here's zoomed out view of the world, those forest sections outside the city in the world, and then we can see them zoomed in, and there is on the bottom there's the tile set you can use to paint the world, and I can copy paste stuff, and of course now when I pasted this street lamp, the background is no longer right, so there's no sophisticated editing for that it has to be corrected by hand. And let's see, there's the city streets, and this is another mode of the editor, those crosses are the objects or enemies you can place in the world, and those rectangles, because in MV Ultra there is this system where you can hide in cover from enemies, so I have to mark those cover spots on the map, and they are those rectangles, and it's got this kind of interface that these object identifiers are just hexadecimal bytes, but when you hover over it, then it shows what kind of object it is. So for example, now it's a police officer holding a electric shock gun.
Yeah.
And there are some doors you can enter, and they point to a destination at another point on the map. And the layout how I make it it's up to me, but so I just have to make it logical for myself, the game engine doesn't care where those those rooms or corridors are actually located, but just how you move between them.
How large can you make the world? Is there any limits?
Yeah, like in this editor there are no limits, but then when I divide it up to like loadable levels on the 64 game, then it's like limited by the available memory and of course ultimately by the available disk space. So for example, MV Ultra is 2 disk sides, so like it first loads the game engine from the first disk side, then you have to turn the disk, and the beginning parts of the game are all on the second disk side, and then when you get to the final phase of the game, then you have to flip the disk again. And I think that kind of creates also a nice tension. I think it was the same in some games like Cinemaware games like Defender of the Crown. So when you get the prompt to turn the disk, then you know that something interesting is happening. Yeah,
true.
And I could so I make a different world editor tool for each game. There are some small differences how the data is stored, which is the most efficient way for that particular game. And I could also show the sprite editor. This is from MV Ultra as well. So it's a kind of like there you see the zoomed view of the sprite you are editing, and the non-zoomed out. Let's load some like the player sprites, and like this is the player's lower body and upper body, and then you can test them out by combining them. So here's the player's legs there, and you combine with the upper body like that. You can test that the animations all make sense. And from MV Ultra onwards, I also got this huge idea that maybe I can define like the collision boxes of the sprites graphically, so I don't have to type them in as numbers anymore. So like that's the collision box for the player's torso in that white rectangle, and like similarly there's the collision boxes for each of the lower body frames. And this like, and my games have a lot of these humanoid characters, so it's like based on a chain of sprites. So like first you have this lower body sprite, then you bolt on the upper body, and then like into the upper body you would then bolt the weapon the character is holding, and you like define those connection points. They are those flashing points. So it's, I think when it was for Metal Warrior 4 that I first used this kind of chaining system, and before that they were just like rectangles that had to line up.
I have to jump on a little different topic for a moment, because looking at, pixel graphics is beautiful, and everybody here at location and everybody out there, you should be aware that in the Suomen Pelimuseo, Finnish Museum Games, there is right now a pixel graphics exhibition. There is lots of pixel graphics from old and current times shown, logos, graphics, artists, how Commodore 64 art, pixel art was and is being made. There's actually computers that anybody can go and start pixeling either. 2 machines, one with a mouse and one with a joystick, and one with the other one with the modern graphics software, and the other one with slightly older. We had an excellent exhibition opening. There were so much people. People who had no connection to Commodore 64. They knew that, this is art thing. They came to hear and see about pixel art. And there were So it was so amazing to see that people are listening to 10 Commodore 64 graphics guys talking about making art on 64, and they were just eating every word. They were enjoying it. And I was like, where the hell did these people come from? I knew one artist who was their non-Commodore 64 artist, just graphics artist. He has absolutely no connection to any gaming machines, no connection to Commodore, nothing. He just came there, oh, this is an art thing. They are making art, pixel art. And he was enjoying it all. This is a fascinating subject, even outside our little circle.
Yeah.
So everybody go to the Pelin Museum, Finnish Museum of Games. There's amazing things for you to see, and the exhibition will be open until next spring, maybe. So it will be there 4 months, 6 months. You have time, not endless amount of time, but you have time. Back to you.
Yeah, so I think that that pixel art thing and like the amount of pixels you have to fill on the Commodore 64, because it's not so much, it's like not an impossible job for even one person to make a kind of a long or big game by commercial standards. So I didn't realize this at first, like when I got back to the Commodore 64, it was just like fun trying to see that what I could come up with, but later I understood that like it's maybe the only platform I can make these kind of big games on, because if I was doing it on PC, like the amount of pixels or the amount of colors would be so much larger, and like the same thing for music and sounds, because I can make everything by sound synthesis. I don't have to record like real gun firing sounds or like that. But and of course like I absolutely love the sound of the SID, and that's a good reason also to stick to the Commodore 64.
Yeah. And it sounds like, okay, because you are doing everything by yourself, or mostly. So just what you said, Commodore 64 makes it possible, not Amiga, but Commodore makes it possible for you. Because I'm thinking how much time you have to use to game making, because you have life outside work and outside game making. So on PC, it would take it would make 10 years to make a game. Yeah. Now you have been making a game every 2 years, and actually it's 2 years from MV Ultra.
Yeah. So yeah, I think like for example, Steel Ranger was a kind of efficient project. That took me only 1 year, but then like MV Ultra was over 2 years. And I think I started working on MV Ultra a bit already when working on Steel Ranger. But then Hessian was kind of, because it was like my comeback project to the Commodore 64 after those Metal Warrior game series. So Hessian it took very long time, but I was taking my time. I had no hurry. I was again like seeing that what I would come up with, and like I think I'm in the same stage again, that I'm experimenting and seeing what I will come up with. But yeah, I've been like hinting some things on like Lemon 64 forum, and now if you watch closely what I will show, like you will probably guess what might be coming.
Okay, so keep your eyes out on Lemon 64. All right. So back to the question that how is your day? How your week goes? Because you go to work, you have your hobbies. How much do you spent on game making?
Yeah, maybe it's like a few hours average on a day, and not every day, but when I feel like it. But I think, for example, there are some exceptions. Like for example, when I was finalizing MV Ultra, there could be some kind of long sessions into the night, and that wasn't exactly healthy. So, I am growing up a bit older, so I have to think about my health, so that I can keep making games long into the future and not wreck myself doing all those things.
And as you mentioned Hessian, I have to again advertise the Finnish Museum of Games a little bit, because it was funny and sad that when we were opening the museum almost 6 years ago, Hessian missed the museum's first exhibition by 2 weeks or something. We had to finalize the list of games what we are putting the museum, what we will be working, and it's not ready yet. So we couldn't get the game to the museum version 1.0, but we got it to the 1.1 when we upgraded the museum main exhibition after 1 year. So let's take this game out, and now we can put Hessen in. And I think it's time to think about upgrading Hessen to MV Ultra. That could be something to do. Okay, all your game. Do you have anything more to say from here?
No, I think I will show something.
Show something. Let's show
about like optimizing things and stuff, which might be fun for the more technical.
Yeah, let's go to that in a moment.
Yeah.
About game design. All your games, they are very content heavy, story heavy. They have big storylines. They have lots of characters. They have written material. Your games are not mindless shooters where you just go on and shoot everything, but everything has a good story.
Yeah, I think that game, like from playing like PC games later, for example, I think Deus Ex on the PC was kind of a massive inspiration. Then later, when I had. Yeah, when I was about to write like Metal Warrior 4, and I think there is some of Deus Ex influence there. I think that was the first game where there were like lots of characters like to talk to, and they could like accompany you even in combat and stuff like that. It's fun when you kind of write a good enough enemy AI routine, you can then use it for the friendly characters as well to support you in combat. But yeah, I think it's kind of a balancing act, so that you want this story, but you also want the freedom for the player. And I think Deus Ex was a kind of a good like kind of example for me, that it was kind of linear, but you still could explore, and the story would propel you forward. But I think like I consider myself as a quite in a way a quite bad game designer. I don't have really a lot of imagination, so I think I kind of approach it from a simulation perspective, that we will have the world, or like for example in Metal Warrior games it's kind of the near future real world, or in Steel Ranger it's this machine planet, and then you have like kind of rules for the world, that how the weapons will work, and then I start testing out like how the enemies will behave according to their rules, which is usually like to find and kill the player, and And it's kind of like iterating that the gameplay becomes fun, but like I'm not very good in imagining like gameplay mechanics, but I kind of have found that like most games anyway, they are about moving and collecting things and combat, so maybe you don't need that much imagination.
Listen to him. He's saying he doesn't have much imagination. He doesn't have much game design skills, and he has made 10, 20 games, amazing games. He's the supreme ruling Commodore 64 game making in Finland and in whole universe, and he doesn't have imagination. Come on. But yeah. You participate in these writing competitions, the nano writing something.
Yeah, nano remo. So I think it started when I got my day job at Ludocraft and this small game studio in Oulu. And it was my first year then, and when November came, then I found out about this thing that it got started in the United States by a kind of small group that they would every November they would write a novel of 50,000 words, and like each year they got more and more users, and I have been writing a novel ever since 2007. Yeah, and got some of my co-workers to write also. It's kind of fun when it's the darkest time of the year and rainy, so it's kind of nice to escape into another world, and like some of those stories have then ended up in my games also.
That's a very, very nice way to keep yourself busy, keep your tiny imagination running fast, overspeeding, and get stuff for the games as well, as you mentioned. It's it suits you. Okay.
Yeah, it's like you when you write a novel each year, maybe you aren't like training like in any focused way. It's like just having fun, but still I think you will end up with some skills and some experience each year. So it's kind of like organic learning.
Yeah. Okay, we are soon out of time. We have to find the next talker. I haven't seen him yet at all. Maybe he is here, but over there I think I heard a sound. But you had something more to show. It was about optimizing.
Yeah, I could show something like how I work from these newest experiments I'm doing, and I could show like what happens when you change some things in code and how it works. Like, so I could first like show what it is. Now this kind of prototype game which you might recognize in some manner. So we have here a player character again who can actually this time he's got a sword, he can swing, and he's also got a gun in different directions, and he can also transport to a wheel like in certain earlier game, and he also has a kind of super weapon he can use. So now we could start looking at the code, for example, for this character control, and see a little bit what the source code looks like. So I kind of have parameters for things like the player's movement speed or jump height. So we could try to make him jump a little higher. So we will now determine like this, he jumps to this height, and when we change this jump height and recompile just by typing make, and then just fire up the disk image again, and let's see. Now he jumps higher. So, and I think there's, of course there's, I'm not going to go through all this code, but it's kind of, in principle it boils down to like checking joystick positions, and when like if joystick right is pressed, then the character starts moving right, and when joystick up is pressed, then he jumps. So those are kind of like elementary things, and we don't have that much time. So I try to make my games run at 50 frames per second, but I could show that they actually don't run at 50 frames per second. They run at half the frame rate. So let's make a little engine change so that it's like kind of interpolating the movement for each second frame so that it appears smooth. But let's see if we disable it. Yeah, from here it's like calculating the average movement of the character, but if we just make it 0 instead, then we will see the actual effect of running the game logic at only the half frame rate. Let's see, did I manage to? Yeah, like now it's, now you still see the jump, but it's only, well actually there's now I managed to introduce a bug, but you can see that the actual physics are calculated at this 25 hertz. So like it's not like giving you a like half more CPU time, it's a little bit less, but still you can like get more time to run more complex AI or stuff like that. And finally I would like to show how I do scrolling, because I don't actually scroll the screen anymore in my games. I redraw the screen, but I redraw only the like parts that need redrawing, like the screen memory and the color memory, and those parts that don't need to change are left untouched. So I will win some raster time that way. So I could try to make a debug thing that you could if I can find my main loop from the game. Because the code is so optimized that I have to think a little bit where my main loop is. So I just write like then, no, I think the space is the super weapon. Maybe I'll just use A instead. So when A is pressed, it should clear the screen and show that how it will redraw when like moving the screen or scrolling, even though it's actually not scrolling. Let's see if it compiles. Maybe it did. Let's see. Now when I press A, it should clear the screen, and then we get to see how it redraws. It didn't. No, I think it didn't loop all the way through. Yeah. I had the loop the wrong way. Inks versus Dex, I think. Now. Maybe now. Yeah, so now it clears the screen, so So actually now so whenever it scrolls, then it redraws the parts. Actually, that's maybe I'll put some other character code so we see the effect better. Let's see. No, I think maybe that was a little too technical experiment to try without like preparing. No, well, now, yeah. I think now we see it like it's drawing only the parts of the screen that need to change, and some of that trash remains on the screen because it doesn't need to draw those empty spaces. So I win some raster time by doing it that way. Yeah. So I think I started that kind of scrolling in MV Ultra, and I think I will continue to use that in my future games because, yeah, it wins me some raster time.
That's beautiful, guys, ladies, everybody. His scrolling games don't scroll.
Yeah.
Now you know it. Okay, we are out of time, but we can do questions. If anybody in the Twitch or here has any questions, shoot now. Nope. One question.
Will there be a new version of Goat Tracker?
The question was, is there going to be a new version of Goat Tracker?
Yeah, I think I might not be developing it actively, but I think it's in the good hands of Jason Page. He's making his own version of it, and I think if you should test it out, and if you like it, then maybe switch over to that version. Like, was it? I think it was Gate Ultra. It was also Ultra.
Okay, anything more? I don't see anything in Twitch yet. There's a question.
How do you feel about using expansions like RAM expansion unit or controllers with more buttons or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is about using expansions, memory expansions, and so on. Hardware.
Yeah, I think they are very, very interesting. Like I still like to do these games, but like my games have also seen cartridge releases. Some of them, not all of them, and like, well, you could like use the RAM expansion also as a blitter, like this Sonic game does, and that's like very interesting, and I think I will experiment with that at some point.
Anyone else? No. Okay. Thank you, local audience. Thank you, remote audience. Thank you, Cadaver. It was really nice to have you here.
It was a pleasure to be here and speak. And be in the way.
Yes. Woo! Still more. We want more, yeah. Okay, I guess you have to bow to the people. Oh, there is actually a question in online. Do you program, from Mikko Hypponen, do you program other old system in addition to Commodore 64?
I have tried to, but not like actively. I have tried to program the NES, but maybe when I'm retired, I will return to it.
Okay. So we will have a little break here. We will get the next speaker on stage. Have fun, get some morning coffee, try to cure your hangover. We are still missing lots of people from here. I can't imagine where they have gone. But we will be back in a minute. Thank you.
Hello guys, Flex here. Just came to announce that the space bar is open. Yeah. Beer time, lonkero time, and shot time. Fisu, Salmari, if you need. Available at space bar. And if someone has lost his bus card, please go ask from the info desk.
Saanko kuvan?
Announcement. We are here preparing the next presentation. It will take still a few minutes, so have some more coffee. Thank you.